So I think we've got everybody who's coming tonight. I hope everyone's well. So I'm going to call the special board meeting on September 3rd, 2020 to order. Please stand for the pledge.
Mommy. Mama,
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kelly, you want to do roll call?
Mr. Case-Leal.
Oh, excuse me.
Here, I'll listen.
He was here a second ago.
Yeah, I saw him. Okay, I see Ms. Flynn, Ms. Stadler. I see. Okay, Mr. Sang.
Excused.
I'm picking up. I'm here.
Mr. Wolf.
Excused.
Betterpid is here.
Here.
And Ms. Here.
Here. Thanks. I want to review the agenda. There's a couple of changes on agenda item 4.02. Appoint probationary teacher. Dates have been added. Agenda item 4.05, amendment to the 2021 calendar. It's been revised. And agenda item 4.06 has been added, agreement with Great Minds, Inc. Can I have a motion to waive agenda items 202 through 2.08?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Flora?
Yeah.
Are there any questions or comments about that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I guess is that 5-0? Because I don't see James anymore. James, are you the 845 number by any chance? Okay, so it passes 5-0. So we're going to move forward to the superintendent's report, and which is actually, I think, going to be a mix of Matt and Elisa and Eric talking about our latest with the reopening plans.
Hi, so thanks for having this meeting tonight, and I'm just going to be pretty brief, but we started this week, so we had all of our staff, teaching staff back yesterday and today. So the first shocking thing was just that if you were around town, you saw all the parking lots filled for the first time in quite a long time. So that was just weird to see and nice to see, and it was really nice to see everybody back. So these days, both this week and we have, we changed things around. So next week we'll have these days as well, are kind of a mix of a few things. They're a mix of some professional development. They're a mix of like faculty / business kind of meetings, a mix of teachers setting up their classrooms and, getting things from us that are needed, and also a chance, and it will look different at different levels, but a chance for teachers to start reaching out to their students. And so I know at the elementary level, they're making a concerted effort to be reaching out to their students or the students' parents kind of over the last 2 days and next week as well. What I said to everybody was, in my little welcome, was that that parents definitely needed to start hearing from someone other than me, and so it was nice for that kind of stuff to start. I think there's a mix from everyone of just a feeling of excitement to be back and to see the kids again, but also trepidation just at trepidation with a year with, I don't know the right word. Uncertainty, I guess, might be one, or just we're doing so many new things, either health procedures or safety procedures, different kinds of ways of delivering instruction, doing teachers doing a little bit of everything this year. But it was really, really nice to see everybody back, and it'll be nice to see everybody next week as well. I think it made a lot of sense for us to redo the calendar, and to give a little bit more time at the beginning of the year, and so we're trying to use every single moment of it. So I've just seen a lot of highly productive work happening, whether it's individual teachers, groups of teachers. If anything is larger than a small group, it's done through video conferencing, but just a lot of productive energy and a lot of professionalism. And so it's been really, really gratifying to see. I mean, the next moment for us is next week when we start seeing students on the campus for orientations towards the end of the week, and then the week of the 14th to have our in-person kids back and to be kicking off officially with the remote students as well. So it's really gratifying to see everybody come back today. It was gratifying to see the hard work of a lot of people this summer start to kind of pay off in steps. And just so everybody knows, both on the board and the public, that we essentially are fine-tuning and working through steps of our plan and issues with our plan every single day. And so there continues to be a lot of energy focused, and there will be throughout this whole next couple of weeks and through the entire year. So one thing that we put out that is a change, the last board meeting I spoke about the first week, the September 14th week, with the hybrid in-person, just wanting students for one day each. And this is just part of the plan that's evolving. We talked about that a lot, and we really felt that having both the blue group and the gold group for 2 days that week was important. Just because, kids not being in school a whole lot, that it would be great to get them started on, the relationship building, the new systems in the school, the new habits, such as mask wearing in school and things like that, that it would be great to have 2 days. So my hope is that this is my last calendar change, at least for now. And I apologize for any confusion that I may have caused just with us not having everything in lockstep. But that's one change. We're excited to have the hybrid groups back for both days that first week. And just another point of clarity, that first week we are on a 1 hour delay. We added temperature screening. And we're still doing the parent screening at home, but we're adding temperature screening to the building for students coming in. And so we wanted that extra hour just to make sure everything was in place that first week, and we had staff in place and the routines in place, et cetera. Elementary will stay on that 1 hour delay for the foreseeable future, just because that is a time for the elementary teachers to be checking in with remote students. We see some of these scheduling issues probably evolving over time. The elementary thing, I know many of the elementary teachers really pushed hard and wanted a full day with their in-person students. And so if we can work into their schedule, and it may look different for different teachers, but if we can work time in for them to work with the students who are at home during the school day, we can start kind of changing around that elementary schedule. So that's just like a little update. I feel like I've, been talking reopening kind of at great length in a way for the last 6 weeks or so. But it was really, really exciting to see people back this week. And, it feels different and looks different, but people were back. And that meant a lot. And so I know that there was also some questions from the board about the high school schedule. And so, this whole superintendent report is a bit on the informal side tonight, but I asked Elisa Soto and Eric Wright to both talk about it a little bit and also be available for questions. And I just also want to throw out to the board, if you just have any general questions about reopening that you feel need to be answered or worked on, or you want to answer tonight, to let me know. So you can jump in and let me know those now. We can jump to the scheduling piece. Like I said, we're kind of informal tonight. All right. So high school schedule, just briefly on my end. I think I said this in my last communication to the community that the elementary and the high school schedule proved to be pretty challenging. We have, it differs a little bit by level, but, we have about 35% of our students chose the all remote virtual option. Middle school it was a lot easier to collapse sections at the middle school and to kind of basically create two alternate schedules, one for the in-person kids and one for the at-home students. Elementary was much more complicated than I thought it was going to be. And we just kind of started pulling that off really in the last couple of weeks, how we were going to serve both kids. High school was also complex. Oddly enough, they were kind of complex for some similar reasons, and one was just finding ways to deliver remote instruction to students, especially for students choosing the all remote option that had some live elements to it, hopefully a lot of live elements to it, that allowed for some semblance of equity between the groups. And allowed teachers to be able to kind of focus as fully as possible on the kind of the group in front of them. So whatever we came up with at those levels certainly isn't perfect. I talked a little bit about elementary. I think we're doing okay there, but there's questions about high school, and so that was kind of my rationale. I know at the beginning, our plan for the high school was to just do a full period day in person. My concern, this was probably about 3 weeks ago, my concern was how are we going to find ways to reach the remote students? Teachers were coming up with different strategies, and so this isn't anything negative about teachers, bless them. They were really trying to figure out ways to do both. I grew increasingly worried about trying to figure out ways to reach the remote students in a meaningful way. So I'll sort of turn it over to Elisa and Eric just to talk through a little bit. But I do, like I said, I kind of want this to be informal tonight, so I want the board just to jump in with questions, because this is all we have to talk about tonight. It's just reopening updates. So Elisa and Eric, I'll just let you jump in, just talk about the high school schedule a little bit, then we'll just open for questions.
So good evening, everyone. So we've had many conversations, many conversations, the faculty, staff, my building, union building representatives, to come up with a schedule, to create a schedule to allow us to open, to create a schedule where we can have our students come into the building, create some sense of normalcy for them. They haven't been in the building since March 13th, and to allow us to have some face time with our students that are learning remotely. And we came up with a pure hybrid / remote schedule for our students. I want nothing more than to see our students come into the building from 7:15 to 2:10 every day, Monday through Friday. That's my hope. That is my dream. We'll get there. But this was a schedule that we came up with in order to allow us to open. And we're very fortunate to open. There are not many schools. There are many schools in our area who are not. And everyone has their challenges. But we are very fortunate to provide a schedule that will allow our students to come into the building and provide an education for those that are working remotely. So with our schedule, we have 4 periods in the day. We have some transition time to allow our students to ride the bus or walk home. And then the last 4 periods of their schedule, they will learn remotely, and that'll allow our remote students to join in on that instruction as well. So they're getting meaningful FaceTime. They're getting feedback from their teachers. They're actually getting live instruction with their teachers. Questions?
If I can, Elisa, I just want to add to that the 4 periods that are taking place during the day are block scheduled, and from a standpoint where they're longer than a traditional period that they would have during the course of the day. They're 52-minute periods as opposed to 45-minute periods. So they are getting a slightly longer period of time in class with their teachers.
That is correct, Mr. Wright. Thank you
You're
for mentioning that.
I just have a couple of questions, if you don't mind, about the high school with the 3.5 hours. So the first question I have is, the kids are going to be following their schedule for periods 1 through 4 on, say, if they're in the later alphabet for Thursday, and then 5 through 8 in person on Friday, correct?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up a little bit, Mr. White.
My question is, my question was, if they're going to be following 4 periods a day, like 1 through 4 on Thursday, then 5 through 8 on Friday, and that's going to be their schedule. Let's say if they were to come back in person, that would be their schedule, and every kid has a lunch. What are they doing during their lunch period?
They have lunchtime. We are serving food for our students, so they'll have that lunchtime, and they'll also have the opportunity to connect with their teachers. Many of our staff members have informed me that they will schedule appointments with their students, provide them additional support, tutoring. We have our school counselors that will also be meeting with our students, and our social workers and school counselors. So it's not a full period where they're having their lunch period there. Most certainly, they can do that if they like to, but we're making an effort to connect more with them during that period.
But if a kid has lunch 5th period, and say Friday they're starting with 5th period, that's at 7 something or 8 o'clock in the morning, they're going to be going to a lunch period that time?
So I had to invert the schedule on Tuesdays and Fridays. So actually 5th period is 10:15, which is a regular lunch period. We are serving breakfast and lunch during that time. So on Friday, we're starting 8 and working our way backwards. So our lunch periods that, we will have a 7th period, a 6th period, and a 5th period lunch period. So yes, we're serving breakfast and lunch during that time. And students will have the opportunity to connect with their teachers if they're available, school counselors, social workers. We're going to have teaching assistants available to provide extra tutoring services in the library, in the community room. Yes, that is their schedule.
Is it going to be that they're going to be requested, the students are going to be requested to go there for that?
Yes.
Yes to which one? It's voluntary, or yes, they're mandated to go to see that extra support?
Unfortunately, we can't mandate children. We're going to encourage them.
What about if the days that they don't have that lunch period scheduled? So say their lunch period is period 5 or 6.
I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You want to know
if on Thursday,
Anthony, you have a really bad connection. We're all having trouble hearing you.
I'm sorry. If on Thursday it's periods 1 through 4, and they don't have a lunch, how are the kids getting lunch then?
So we are going to stagger our dismissal after fourth period by wing, and students are having a grab to go lunch. I don't know if he's asking a question.
Yeah, Anthony, we really can't hear you.
All right.
Sorry.
So it's definitely going to happen. That's going to be. All right. I'm trying to move to a better connection spot. All right.
Does anyone else have any questions while we're waiting for Anthony to get a better connection? All right, Kristen.
Can't hear you.
You're muted. Or you're not muted.
It shows you're not muted, but we can't hear you. I
Yeah.
don't know why.
Is there anyone who's not having technical difficulties that has a question? I had a very quick general question. It's not about the high school schedule, but I read, I think that the federal government has extended the waiver for free lunch that they had in the spring. Is that the case?
Yeah, that we were going to send out a communication to parents with that change soon. Karen Pagano was kind of working on the changes for what that would mean. Anne Marie?
Yes.
So what does it mean?
Karen had gotten some information from the USDA that all children can eat for free, and similar to what we did in the spring. She was just waiting for confirmation from New York State before we put some information out to parents.
So can I chime in here?
Sure, go ahead, Karen.
Hey, this is the first time I've gotten to speak at a board meeting. I'm so
See?
excited.
Thank God, go ahead.
Okay, so USDA on Monday put out a blast that they were going to be extending eligibility for free summer meals into the school year and until money ran out. And so that flexibility has received zero guidance from New York State. So I was very reluctant to put any language out in our advertisements to parents, because we have to follow what New York State agrees to do as opposed to what USDA agrees to do. My understanding is that the flexibilities will allow us to continue to provide meals in the remote environment for all families and children under the age of 18 under the summer meals program, similar to what we did this year. In addition, if I sign our schools up, all 6 schools up for a summer meals program, we would be able to continue that as well in the school environment for in-house students. I'm saying this as a representative of our district, but I'm not saying this as a representative of New York State because I don't have that specific guidance yet. We were told we'll get that guidance by the end of this week, and we're preparing for such. So to get back to Anthony's questions, what will happen at the high school, we will have grab and go lunches ready for those students as they walk out the door, and they will be able to take a meal home with them. We are also preparing meals for distribution for 3-day and 5-day remote students as a distribution site, potentially at Beacon High School and one other location, which we're still trying to ferret out. And that would provide meals, both breakfast and lunch, for those students who are remote either 3 days or 5 days, depending on their school schedule. So we're fast and furious preparing for this, but we didn't want to place any advertisements out there until we knew exactly what was happening with USDA in conjunction with New York State.
It's this is really a great change, or not change, but it's great that this got extended. I think there was a lot of concern and a lot of, from what I saw online, a lot of advocacy to continue this from the USDA. So it's really great that they did, because the need is still there. Nothing has really changed in terms of the community's need. And so I was really happy when I saw that this happened. And Karen, thanks for always being on top of this and coming up with a lot of creative ways to get food out to everyone. We are very appreciative.
Thank you.
What other, I mean, just questions about anything. What's on your mind?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
You can hear me now? So I just wanted kind of a less granular question, and you might have answered this when I was having technical trouble, but it seems like there's pros and cons to whatever decision we make. We're not returning to a normal school year. So I really just wanted to kind of back up and understand the why opening in person was a priority, just to understand what we want to get out of this, like why we're doing it. I've heard, Mrs. Soto, you just said that connecting in person. It would be great to just hear, why is that important? Why are we having counselors? What are our concerns? What's the reason and rationale behind making this a priority? Because it's certainly not easy, so it would be helpful to understand it.
You mean just from the district perspective, or high school, or?
Yeah, I mean, I assume that it wasn't like you could do one thing for one group of kids and a different thing for another group,
right,
given that there's siblings that take care of each other and everything. I just,
right.
We are seeing a lot of districts go fully remote, and I think I know the answer and I support this decision, but
right.
Of course I'm following all these parent conversations, and I think what I'm seeing is a lot of focusing on wanting all the specific details worked out and what's going to happen during this time. But I feel like seeing a lot of other districts take different approaches, nobody's going to have a perfect year. No one's going to have a normal year. I think we're going to have to work backwards from kind of what's lost during this time, in terms of educational gains. But I just wanted to find out what are the priorities here, so we could hear that, because I think we just jumped right into these reopening conversations of how, but I think having the why firmly understood is important.
Right. Well, just from my perspective, I, on a daily basis, I'm monitoring COVID-19 case rates in the community, the region, state, et cetera. And, not that I am any sort of doctor or epidemiologist or anything like that, but I don't think I was expecting things to continually go down and or stay, around 1% or even below 1%. So as I saw that trend really start to entrench, that positive trend start to entrench, I really thought opening in person for people who wanted to open in person was of high value. And I said in either a Zoom or a board meeting or both, that I think students who benefit from in-person instruction kind of cuts through all aspects of our district, all grades, all need levels, all everybody. And so I also felt just from the sort of the science standpoint that to try to kind of capture some of this in-person instruction while these rates are so low would be a worthy cause as well. So I was really motivated by what I feel is the benefit for some or many of our students for in-person instruction. And then we were tasked with trying to sort of find a way to juggle both this hybrid/remote and then all remote, which was definitely a challenge and still is. But so I was just simply motivated by that, and I continue to sort of see commentary. I mean, I've been reading different people's opinions about this all summer. And there was certainly a lot of things written, I want to say kind of midsummer, that, districts should prioritize, these kids, kids with special needs, or kids who have different academic challenges, and the rest should stay home for remote. I really didn't want that to be the only thing guiding us. That certainly was one of my motivations, to provide in-person for our students most in need and for the families that chose that. But if you're going to bring everybody back, which is, in my opinion, kind of the way things work in New York, if I'm going to choose to bring everybody back, then we need to make it available for anyone. I do think there is a power in in-person instruction. I think there's a power in connection. I've seen young people get really used to wearing masks over the last 5 or 6 months, where it's just kind of a habitual thing. And, before the meeting started, I was talking about my first Little League coaching practice today, and the kids had masks on, and they just kind of, had them off and on for when it was appropriate or when they were near each other. And I think they were getting really used to this. And I think many kids are really ready to return. So that being said, we have really been trying to pour a lot into making sure our remote, I got to start getting off this word remote, but our virtual instruction is high quality as well. And so, so we didn't want to put sort of everything into just one thing. And so we, really took from that survey that we needed a lot more live instruction, more structure, a lot more interaction, student to student and student to teacher. And so we've really been working with teachers and getting their ideas on how best to do that too. So, and I also, right or wrong, and I know people have lots of opinions about the governor, and I certainly do too. But he, declared whatever day that was, August 7th, that he felt schools were ready to reopen. And so to me, that was also a green light that we really needed to start moving forward and do whatever we could to plan to do it. So I may not be my most eloquent tonight, but I'm very much guided by wanting to provide in person for a wide range of kids who need it. And also try to design high quality remote too. And we definitely will have on the instructional end, we will have our miscues, and we'll have our mistakes. Part of my opening address to the teachers, in the midst of me talking about taking risks and trying new things, we had a little technical failure on my end. And so I was just a perfect example of trying new things. I think I was somewhat resistant very early in the summer to doing large, hundreds of people Zooms, just because it was a new thing for me. And I was probably a little scared or nervous, and I've since doing those all the time now. But anyway, sorry, I'm kind of rambling now, but that's what went into the planning. And I think the other key part of all this is we really tried to bring along our staff the entire way. And so we really started talking with people about reopening back in early July, either on a committee basis, a one-on-one basis. Then we started doing town halls with either teachers, TAs, transportation, just a lot of communication, a lot of meeting, but we really felt it was important that they also, felt that we could do this too. So that was our guiding factors with this. And I think also the fact again, we did not create a perfect model. There's no perfect right now in terms of the instructional side, but I think the fact that I felt good kind of about the numbers, the percentages on both sides. I felt good that, around 65% of our families opted for the in-person hybrid, but I also felt good that we had a large number, 35% of our families choose remote, and that we were able to offer a viable remote option to them too. So anyway, that's been guiding my thinking all along. I saw something online a few weeks ago just kind of a random tweet, but it's someone who's been following COVID-19 and all the different states' reaction to it. And this person said, if there's a state that can reopen schools right now, it's New York. And nothing has changed since since that person tweeted that out in terms of our transmission rates. And so I'm really happy to be in a state that this is a possibility. I'm proud to work with people who've really poured everything into trying to get things up. And I have a number of administrators who've not taken a day off probably in the last 4 or 5 months. You know, people have poured a lot of time and energy into this. And I'm also just really thankful for the community, that the community's asked a lot of hard questions, but I think they've been pretty supportive of our planning efforts as well. But I'll be honest, I feel like we're getting into the white knuckle stage for at least superintendents. And, you know, it felt really exciting, and also nervous. I felt nervous just to have all staff back this week. And we're going to start having kids come back onto campus next week for orientations. And that's exciting and nerve-wracking too. And then that week of the 14th is also going to be the same way. It's really energizing. It's nerve-wracking. We're trying to put a lot of things in place to keep us safe. I'm going on too long. But what other questions do folks have?
I have a follow-up. Okay. I just wanted to know if any thought has gone into kind of study skills and project and self-management for, you know, because last year we just didn't have any time to really make this pivot. I'm somebody that actually, I work remotely. I have teams that I work with in the and bosses in Texas. And so there was a learning curve of having to do project management and self-management when you're outside of a very, outside of a physical structure. So I didn't know if there was any time or thought put into supporting students, because this is actually, in terms of our strategic plan, something that fits, you know, prepares students for the world beyond school, which is, you know, how to develop these skills around adapting and time management, project management, and also something I always have to work on with my own child who has some learning challenges, which is self-advocacy. So I just am wondering if there's ways that you guys are building that into this model.
I'm gonna throw this to Eric and Elisa. Maybe they can jump in with some thoughts, but I'll just say this. I think one of the cool things, this is something, a lot of districts are doing. So it's not unique to us, but we were able to build on those Wednesdays time for teachers to both plan together, do planning on their own, and also have professional development. So teachers are going to be getting PD support, not just in these 4 days before the year starts, but really every week for the entire year, pretty much. And so, you know, we want to put a lot into supporting teachers with that. And also, one of my messages during my back to school talk was I talked about the high school graduation and how the high school graduation, and this is not me saying we're not going to go back to, you know, the traditional graduation, but it was different. It was also way more personal. Kids were more relaxed because they were almost more in the audience, like watching this thing on the movie screen and at the drive-in. It felt in some ways more together, for lack of a better word. And you really, with the way the movie was put together, you really got to see the uniqueness in every single senior graduating. So this isn't me saying we're going to do away with being at Dutchess Stadium doing the old graduation, but like we were forced to do something different, and it ended up being pretty personable and pretty cool. And maybe there's some new traditions that will come from that. And so I use that as just kind of a challenge or a nudge, you know, that if there's a year to do something different, And I'm talking about everybody, like, you know, teachers, administrators, everybody. If there's a year to do something different, it's this year. You know, it truly is this year. And so, so I really feel like that needs to be our theme every single week. But I'm going to I know, Lisa, you have some thoughts about this, and Eric, you may have some thoughts from the PD perspective, but I know the high school's built some things in and been talking about some things in regards to this too.
So with regards to PD, we're very fortunate to have our own faculty and staff provide PD to their colleagues during the superintendent's conference days. And they're actually one of the most exciting courses we've had in a long time because one, they were relevant, they were hands-on, and then we also had teachers were given the opportunity to play around with all new equipment and then go back to their facilitators and ask them more questions. Because typically when you go to a PD, you sit there, you hear what the facilitator or the instructor has to say, and then you're left to reflect on what you've learned. This time it was quite different. They were actually able to get their hands in and learn new information, walk away, reflect, try it, and then go back with questions. So that was exciting. This past summer, in addition to that, this past summer, we were very fortunate to work with Dutchess Mediation Center. And Mr. Wright, you can jump in if you like. So we asked several students to participate in circles training, restorative practice training, along with faculty and staff. One, to hear what our students want to see when we first open. And also to train our teachers to, on their first few days, recognize that one, it's going to be different, right? Two, give our children the opportunity to connect, to create community in their classroom, because that's what they want. They haven't seen each other in a really long time. And to also, I want our students to know that when they come in, they know they have a voice, that they can advocate for themselves because they haven't had any sense of normalcy. They haven't had school. They haven't had structure. We haven't heard from them. And so they have a lot to say, right? We haven't seen them this whole time. And so we want to give them the opportunity to do just that. So we've provided training for our faculty and staff to have restorative practice circles. And we also train students so there can be peer facilitators, which is important. And then we are having a follow-up PD days next week as well, where we have three of our trainers presenting to our faculty and staff. And also one of our trainers worked over the summer with this particular organization because we also feel that our teachers need the time to talk about how they're feeling, what their challenges are, what are they looking forward to, so we can support them. Because I always say my teachers need to be in a good place so they can teach our kids. Mr. Wright, did I capture what we did over the summer?
Yes, and just to add to that, we actually met with Dutchess Mediation today with the high school and the teachers that have been involved in the project, along with Mrs. Soto and her team. And we're talking some next steps, curriculum building as well. And so, just infusing the circles into the curriculum and then creating projects from that. Along with that, we're working with other organizations as well, where we're going to be creating projects and infusing it into the curriculum as opposed to looking totally separate, from the curriculum. And I think that we just had a conversation last week with coordinators and Dr. Javon Hunter from Buffalo. And it seemed like the teachers and administrators at the secondary level are really excited about what he has to offer. And the coordinators are asking for him to come into their department meetings to help them and talk some next steps so that we can really get the ball rolling. And I think that's what's going to be important this year, as Dr. Landau said, is just looking at things a little differently, because this is the opportunity for us to explore.
Eric, can you say, remind folks what that work with Javon Hunter is?
Right. So the work with Javon Hunter is that we're looking at One of the things that took place in the past is that based off of some social studies, some history curriculum, we looked at ways that we can infuse a project that would be relevant to the curriculum that was taking place. And at that time, I can't remember the book that was being studied, but there was a project that was created where community members came in and then they had community talks, which actually what it did based on those conversations is it created, just a different viewpoint of our students about the community members that came in, to the school. So we just, what Dr. Javon Hunter does is he just enhances the curriculum that already exists as opposed to giving teachers something else to do. And so that way teachers really feel that it's something that's doable, especially at the high school level, because they have, regents exams that have to be taken mid-year and at the end of the year. So they want to feel like the work that's being done is really relevant to it. Additionally, some of the things that we've been doing is the professional development that Elisa alluded to a little while ago. It has to do with flipping the classroom. And so we're also utilizing that approach in both the middle school and the elementary schools with the professional development that's taking place at this time. And as a result, what you're getting is teachers being excited because they have a new strategy to choose while working with students throughout the course of the year. And you talked about time management. What that's going to help take place is for students to manage their time a little bit more effectively, because they're going to be asked to do some things outside the classroom to be prepared to come into the classroom and then receive the supports that they need, because they'll be able to ask the questions if they are able to do some of the readings and things of that nature on the outside of the class. This approach is very exciting, like I stated, for all of the teachers that have been involved. Our library media specialists at the elementary level, they really spent some time over the past 2 weeks designing the professional development platform, technology-based platform for our teachers at the elementary level. And it kicked off today with teachers were reading videos that the librarians that they uploaded into the system. And then they're allowing time for teachers to meet with them in time slots, just be provided with more support. If it's successful, like I said, what it will do is it will allow students to manage their time a little bit more effectively. And as a result, I just think that our kids will be that much more successful. Lastly, you talked about, I just lost my train of thought. It was something else that you said, Kristen, that you were wondering, was it being built into the curriculum?
Study skills? Independent, like more independent.
Right.
Skills.
Yeah, because it sounds like what you're describing for the schedule feels like a college schedule. Like you're on campus for a portion of the day, and then you're working independently for another portion of the day.
And that's why the flipped classroom.
So I'm just wondering if there's any partnership with Dutchess County Community College or anything that helps transition into that mindset.
At this point, no, other than the courses that are being taken already. But both of these consultants that we're utilizing this year, they are both supportive with that piece, with that practice. So it's going to be, I think, a real eye opener for all of us, for all of our educators. And then I think it's something that will really, take off and be with us for years to come. It'll be a new way of doing things.
Elisa, is that something that you all talk about or try to build in? Is that something maybe on Wednesdays where kids can get some extra support in terms of having more independence this year? And like, how would the Wednesday connect and check stuff be used to support kids with that if kids fall off track or whatever?
So we met with the coordinators today just to talk about what our Wednesdays would look like. And they've come up with the schedule where they have office hours for our students to check and connect with them. I also wanted to add one other thing to what Mr. Wright mentioned with Javon Hunter, because that was such an exciting PD. He's also going to be working with us and taking inventory of our curriculum, of our literature, of all of our lessons, and provide our students with culturally relevant material. In addition, working on some social justice issues as well.
Elisa, what happens if students don't make use of office hours? Because like if I always used to joke this summer, I'm not trying to bring my son into it, but if he were given office hours, he would go the opposite direction and find something else to do. So like, how do you deal with kids who you feel like might need the support, but they aren't, you know, like they just aren't checking in, or how do you deal with that?
One, our teachers, we've had lots of conversations with them. We want them to make those calls home. You know, it's all about the personal touch. In addition, that's what's so important about them coming in. So we can have that FaceTime with them, pull them in and say, hey, you know, your grades are not where they should be. What can we do to support you? That was key for us, just having them come in and check in and have that face-to-face conversation.
Yeah, I think that is an undervalued skill. I was in college, and I thought you only talked to a counselor or advisor if you were in trouble. And my poor college advisor almost missed his plane to China for a Fulbright because he hadn't met with me yet. Because I was like, oh, you only talk to people if you're in trouble. That is like, it's an assumption made that people know that teachers are at their disposal and that they should advocate for themselves. And I think even teachers sharing how they learned to study and what they needed to do, or, you know, just how that this is a muscle that has to be built up, especially if somebody isn't there giving it to you, and that's okay to not know that this is the perfect year to have those really honest conversations about it. I mean, a lot of this other stuff sounds so great and so interesting, and it's great to build it in going forward, and that will be critical. But we're going to have kids who've not been to college and they're going to be floating out half the day. And that's not, you know, I mean, if I were this age, I would be like, I'm out the door, and hopefully I'd log on, but I'm wondering like how we're making sure that they know it's important, and that there's just very like, very grounded, linear, nuts and bolts kind of discussions about this, that this is learning how to be more grown up and in charge of your time. And then it leads to other freedoms, because I think that's something that, you know, once you learn how to manage things for yourself, you get trusted with a lot more.
So our students who are logging on, and I have to agree with what Dr. Landau said, students that are learning virtually, attendance will be taken. They will have a responsibility to log on, have that FaceTime, teachers take attendance, and instruction begins. That was a little different from the spring. We're also going to have a grading system for students. We're on a point value system. We're still working on that. That's coming soon. But students are going to understand the responsibilities. They're going to have to do the work. They're going to have to log on. They're going to have to be present in order to get the instruction.
So what are we going to do for the students? And I apologize for my connection. I am grateful for all the work that you guys have been doing. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm not. I know you guys have been working so hard on this. So there are going to be a lot of students that are going to be home without parents there to ensure that they are logging on. Whereas when they're in school, face-to-face with the teacher holds them accountable and stuff. So what's going to happen with those students? I know that there's accountability, their grades might slip and stuff, but yet there's no one there to ensure, like when they're going in person. And that's why I was trying to push for at least having the 2 days, seeing that class 2 times a week instead of just 1 time, because that teacher can hold them accountable for what they're doing. But yet there are a lot of homes where both parents are working, and they may have that FaceTime and the teacher's saying they got to get on, but yet the student's like, yeah, you know what, I ain't getting on. No one's at home to tell me I got to get on. What are we going to do to help assist those students?
So after having many conversations with teachers, they stress that they would stress the importance of logging on, being present, because it's part of their grade. Okay, participation will be part of their grade. We have a support staff that will support our teachers. We have teaching assistants that will support our teachers making calls, emailing teachers, emailing parents, guardians, and having conversations with them. You know, Mr. White, you're right. This is not the perfect schedule. There are flaws to this schedule, but this was a schedule that we created to get our kids to come back to school and to connect with their teachers.
Elisa, and maybe this idea is on the side now, so if it is, that's okay. But were you also thinking of making spaces available for some students in the afternoon at the high school, like either cafeteria or library, that they could stay in the high school to keep it, like, you know, with some headphones on or whatever, that you know, I know you can't do it for every student, but you would make some spaces available for kids, and you would kind of work on who might need those, and or offered up by choice or whatever.
So we are going to provide areas in the building for students to stay and work remotely. We're also going to provide tutoring service for our students. They can go into the library, into the cafeteria, in the community room, and they will be staffed with teaching assistants to support our students. And these are the same people that be able to reach out and connect with our kids and encourage them to be present when instruction is being taught virtually as well.
I just want to say, I hope that the questions I'm asking aren't critical or seeming critical of this. I don't think there's any right way to do this. And I think we're kind of, you know, we're taking on a big experiment here. It really was like, I think just looking at the reality of, you know, teenagers and knowing that this will be something that, you know, a bridge we're going to have to cross. And I actually think it's a huge opportunity to learn something really important earlier, which, you know, like I was saying, I didn't learn until I was in college, that you had to show up to class and that, you know, your advisor could be there to help you, and that all these things could be important support systems. So, hello. In a little bit. But I think that that's, I think it's in the, I just think that it's something that we're going to need to plan for. And I just was interested, and all these ideas sound great. And then we're going to have to figure out as we go along, and, you know, maybe someone's going to have to be promised, you know, treats or prizes or anything else. But I think it's just something that is actually, you know, not something that we would have chosen, but it will be an important skill to develop for a lot of kids.
I'd like to just comment, as the mother of 2 teenage boys who are not very well self-directed or disciplined in the spring. Those calls home from the teachers and the emails home from the guidance counselor really made all the difference in keeping my kids on track and focused on what they were doing. If they didn't log on for a day, I got an email. If they didn't turn in their assignments, I got an email. And then the guidance department reached out and put together kind of a study guide to help my boys stay on track and give them some tips. So that really does work. And I'm glad to hear that that's going to continue, because I think that's really important. And then coupled with being in school 2 days, which is why I think it's so important, it keeps them, I think it keeps them accountable to their teachers and to their work and to their peers. So that's just my piece, because I know the concern is there, and I saw how it worked in the spring, and it does work.
Thank you.
What other questions do you folks have about the reopening stuff? I don't see any of these as criticisms, and it's good to have hard questions or thoughtful questions, and we all have received a wide variety of feedback this summer, and so we're okay with that. So what other questions do folks have?
So Matt, I was just curious about with the middle school, for the kids that are in the second group or the gold group, whatever one's the second one, the Thursday and Friday, it said on the schedule that they were going to be, and I asked this at the last board meeting, you said that it would come from the building. But do you know when they will get, like, hey, you need to touch base, or you'll get a time to go and log on for your science, social studies, or English or math class? You're muted.
Can't go through with one meeting without muting myself and forgetting. So I will ask Mr. Soltis for sure, but I think that should be coming out next week. We have kind of talked as a district that, you know, we may not kick off. I kind of said this earlier, and like the instructional kickoff might not be 100% perfect, but we want to make sure it is kicked off, if that makes sense. And we want to make sure, like, you know, the kids who are either all virtual or the kids who are starting, my son is the same way. He's going in on Thursday and Friday. Like, we want to make sure on that Monday, the 14th, like, kids are all knowing what the plan is. And so I'll double check with Mr. Soltis, but that should be made known next week. I mean, we have our teachers back on Tuesday and Wednesday. So my sense is that that will be communicated by then, but I'll double check, Anthony.
In terms of, and I know this sports question is still really
sports. Yeah.
Yeah, in the air. But maybe you want to talk a little bit about. It's
not. I mean, it's a little less so up in the air. I should have mentioned this at the beginning. The Section 1 Executive Committee released today a decision that sports in Section 1 will start on September 29th. So that's anything. So that includes workouts. So nothing starts till September 29th. So I am a first-year member of the executive committee for Section 1. I'm the Dutchess County representative. I volunteered for this job way before I knew how complicated it would be, and but it's a really good group of people, and they really spend a lot of time going through everything. And so what you're going to see is a lot of sections making a lot of different decisions. A lot of Dutchess County is in Section 9. And I think they're going to be making a different type of decision. And you'll be seeing individual districts doing different decisions within a section. I've spoken with John Giametta. We both really feel that we will be ready to start on September 29th. And I asked him if he could come to the next board meeting so he could kind of go through what all the protocols are and what things will look like. I mean, I should also note that I think I'm going to get this acronym right, the NISVA final guidelines are coming out tomorrow. so we need to digest those. But John said he's more than happy to come to whatever board meeting to talk about athletics. Again, the argument for things like this is that it does provide an anchor and a way in, and I'm not just talking about athletics, I'm talking about other extracurriculars too, but they provide an anchor and a way for kids to connect to school that's different than just academics. And we have seen at the community level a number of sports on the sort of club level be done safely for now a number of months. And so I think at least many of these fall sports, these low risk ones that the state is calling, we feel should be ready to go on September 29th. The section committee really felt strongly that since a lot of districts weren't even starting in person until like September 21st, that they didn't want athletics to be starting before in-person instruction. So that's why we have that slight delay, because the governor said athletics could start on the 21st. And then Section 1 will be making a further decision about football, volleyball, and cheer, which are considered higher risk sports. So we'll be making a decision once we get we get more state guidelines on those. So we would love to talk about this more in depth, and John is really excited to talk about this at the next board meeting. But Section 1 came out with that earlier today.
So in that case, I mean, if students are getting out at 11, whenever, I guess some students maybe could stay in the various places, but will there be kind of like a late bus to get them home after, you know, for some sports, I guess they used a bus to get home.
Yeah, I mean, yes. We all of our transportation has to be worked through the social distancing protocols. So, you know, just automatically doing what we've done in the past is a little harder, or a lot harder now. But yeah, we totally realize that we're going to need to do some transporting of kids to make sports work. I should also note about this decision, I don't have it right in front of me. I'm pretty sure it refers just to varsity and JV, and I think they're holding off on modified. I could be wrong about that. I had to leave the meeting slightly early to attend a different meeting. But yeah, so so if modified looks different, we may have, you know, less numbers. But yeah, we know we need to do some things with transportation with that to support our students. Any other questions for now?
Just talking about transportation, Matt, I have been receiving some questions. If you want transportation, you don't have to sign up for it, right? You're getting the transportation, like you're slotted to get it unless you don't want it, correct?
Correct, but I'm going to let Anne-Marie, I'm looking at Anne-Marie because she's been working with that more closely.
Yes, we routed all the kids that were eligible for transportation. And then if they answered on the survey question, we noted it, but we didn't take them off the route, because what we're imagining is parents might at the very beginning feel like they don't want to put their children on the bus, and if things continue to go well, that they may transition for that. So we have everyone routed. It's just a matter of knowing if they'll be picked up, you know, on a daily basis, but we were able to socially distance people.
So when do people find out about routes and stuff?
The letters are going, they're getting work done over the weekend. They'll be out early next week. They'll have their bus letters.
And this provides us with an opportunity to give a huge shout out to our transportation department that is doing all of this as we're trying to find a new director. So Sean, yes. Sean and Linda, I think have been key in getting a lot of this done. Am I missing anybody?
And Ashonda is also our.
And Ashonda.
Yes.
So yeah, they have been doing an amazing job and putting in a lot of time, probably beyond the normal workday, correct? So, yes. So thank you to those folks for making all this happen. But that is one of those things that will be coming out next week, and like Elisa schedules and all that. And I think you and Brian are shooting for when are you shooting for with schedules?
We were shooting for tomorrow. I just have to reach out to Michael Keeley.
Okay. It's starting to come together. Any other questions from folks? Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you for being so engaged with all of this. And as you can see, we love talking about this upcoming year. And we really can't wait to get it started. So it's been really nice to have staff back. But thanks for giving us this time to talk about reopening.
Okay, so we have the consent agenda next. Thank you very much, you guys, for that explanation and for
thank you so much
to be flexible about it. And yeah, this is going to be a year that we will all remember for the rest of our lives, I think. And I think there's going to be some negative things, but hopefully some really positive things too. And I saw staff going, you know, driving in and out of the parking lots the other day, and it was nice to see something moving forward. And we have to continue to work as a team together and remember that we are a team. So moving on to the consent agenda, I'm going to read the consent agenda information. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Are there any items from the consent agenda that members would like to have pulled?
Yes, I would like 4.02, 4.03, and 4.04.
Okay. So I would like a motion for 4.01, 4.05, and 4.06, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any comments or questions about those items? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0. Can I have a motion for 4.02?
So moved.
Anthony, is there a second?
Second.
Flora? Are there comments or questions about 4.02?
Yeah, so my question is, there's some items on the instructional personnel list that the work has already been done, but yeah, now we're approving it and backdating it. And a lot of it was PD. And I was just wondering why, if it was PD, we had a board meeting like on August 11th, and we're approving PD that was for the 12th, 13th, and on. Why we're not getting it before? Because I think it's best practice to approve it before the work's done instead of having the work be done, then approving it.
Some of the, just to, if I can answer that, some of the PD that's on there, it was professional development that had to be talked with consultants, with companies. And so it was when they could actually do the PD. And in conversation, you know, it came up at that time, you know, and it happened to be like after, it may have happened to be like after one of the board meetings. So that was when I was able to get our content coordinators available to be able to do the to do the training.
Is that even with our in-person training?
The in-person training, I'm not looking at I don't have the.
Well, our staff, the staff that did the
Right.
training, like we have some staff that did the training, and then it was like, you know, not all of it was consultant work.
Right.
Some of it was where our staff did it, but yet we're approving it after the fact instead of approving it before it happened.
I think what that may have been is that may have been where we're asking for, it may have been addendums where we're asking for additional hours for some of our trainers so that they can continue doing professional development. That's what those may be in that situation.
Okay.
So with our trainers that are doing the professional development in the middle school and at the high school, they started some of the training during the month of August. It was going well, and so we asked if they wanted to continue doing some of the professional development during our professional learning days, you know, like this week and next week. So we added to the hours that they already had.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments about 4.02? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Can I have a motion to approve 4.03? This is the first reading waive, second reading of the policy 5152. Kristen, do I have a second?
Second.
Alyssa, comments or questions?
Yeah, the question I have is that we reviewed this policy last year and it was updated. Did this policy go to the committee, the policy committee, prior to coming to the board meeting?
No, it did not. We were under a timeline with this, and it did not.
So the recommendation changes, what were the recommended changes? Because it wasn't a line item cross out. What were the recommended changes to it?
You're muted, Matt.
Sorry. It added the language of accepting non-resident members of the Beacon Teachers Association. So in the first paragraph, the third line, I think, and then A of that, I think those were the changes. I apologize, Anthony, about not having a cross out one.
No, it's all right.
That was the add-on. It's with the MOA, which is the next thing on the agenda to support that.
But so my point is basically that the policy committee meeting met, they made a recommendation to the board and the board approved this policy last year. And now this policy is being asked to change for the MOA that, which is the next item, but it wasn't reviewed and we didn't follow a structure or systematic approach to changing this. It was said that we're doing this just for the MOA, correct?
Yes, and that is not the fault of any board committee. That's on me in terms of timeline.
Okay.
However, the board was informed of this.
Yeah, at the last board meeting, the board was informed that there was a possibility of a MOA. Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Comments?
I just want to point out that, you know, there were reasons and why the policy committee last year did not approve and have that the employees could bring their siblings to or their children to the district. And I don't remember all the pros and cons that were stated at that meeting. But there were several.
James, as chair, could you clarify if this was discussed before or after a global pandemic occurred?
Yes, this was discussed before the global pandemic. That's absolutely right.
Are there any other comments or questions about it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Passes 5-1. Can I have a motion for 4.04, approve memorandum of agreement with the Beacon Teachers Association?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Laura? Comments or questions?
My comments are that I feel that this is rushed. I don't know if we've planned for having the kids. I think there's going to be things that come up that we're not prepared for. And I don't see that there's a cap for how many kids. I know the board has worked for several years to keep class sizes low, where this is going to increase someone's class size if even one person takes advantage of it. There are the kids that do come to our district, our taxpayers, and these kids would be coming without any tuition for that. I also worry because of COVID-19 that we're bringing kids from outside of Beacon area that will be coming. And if there's something outside where there is a case of COVID on the outside, that they could bring it in because we're widening the area as to the kids coming in.
I think in the context of having asked a lot of teachers this year, And just as a working parent myself, the idea of, one of the biggest issues that you have to resolve as a working parent is where your children will be and if they will be safe and if the schedule matches your schedule. I see this as Beacon really rising up to meet its teachers and staff who are going the extra mile during this really hard time. I know a lot of community members are participating in activities that bring them outside of, out in contact with the outside community, whether it's grocery shopping or travel sports or, going to different events in other municipalities. So I don't think that this increases risk as much as it reduces it, because a teacher with a student in a different district will have exposure to that district. Then they'll also be in Beacon, whereas this actually, I think, shrinks the bubble for Beacon teachers. And honestly, like, as somebody who's an advocate of having more structured options for, solutions for kids and working parents, just overall as a community, I see this as something that, is going toward that end. So I feel like it's something good that we can do. And I, as somebody who fought really hard for smaller class sizes for years, I don't see it as necessarily antithetical to that, just because we're in the middle of a, global crisis.
And I would just say, I don't know how it's going to help
Anthony,
that working parent.
Sorry, Anthony, I'm just going to see if anybody else has any other comments or questions. Go ahead, Anthony.
And I understand the points, and I think that I'm just not understanding how it's going to help the working parent. Like, if they have an elementary kid and their high school teacher, and they're going to come to elementary, where's the kid going to go prior to and stuff? And I know that that's something that the parent would have to figure out, but will we allow that student to stay there? Or are they going to be allowed to leave? I think that we don't have a plan as to how we're going to address it, and it's going to be almost an ad hoc decision as to how we deal with each individual request that comes up for a parent that is bringing their kids to it, because we haven't set up a procedure and or systematic approach to it. And I know that the district is planning a lot for the remote and for the hybrid model and ensuring that the kids are safe and stuff. I just think that's another aspect that they have to plan for, other decisions that they have to make based on individual requests that could be asked for to accommodate that working parent. So I totally understand that it looks like it could be, but how? I don't know. Like, and how is it going to be determined which elementary school they go to? Are they going to go to the elementary, say that's an elementary teacher and they are an elementary kid? How is it going to be decided which elementary school they go to? I haven't heard that information as to how that decision will be made. So I think that there's a lot of unanswered questions. I understand that this came to us as a request from the union, but I think that there's other requests that the union has made that we actually talked through and discussed and come up with a plan prior to, approving.
I may not be able to respond to all of it, but I can respond to some. I know PTA did some kind of internal surveying, and I think the number of students we might be looking at is around 4 or 5. The agreement is just for 1 year, which allows us a chance to review if we feel it's not working. In my previous district, where I was the deputy superintendent, one part of my job was, this was in the teacher's contract there, that they could bring students in. And so not only could the teachers bring students in, but in Ithaca, parents were allowed to choose which elementary school they sent their kid to for the most part. And so that was part of what I did too. So there's a bit of an art and a science to it all. In that district, I was dealing with hundreds or probably close to thousands of requests in terms of where kids wanted to go. I think this might be 4 or 5. And so, the art part of it is, you're trying to kind of work through what someone may have as a request and where things might fit. And the science part of it, science is maybe a stretch, but the science is the numbers part. And, you know, I've been hugely committed to low class sizes in my budget work and work as a superintendent, and am passionate about it as a dad too. And I don't see this having a negative impact. But I do understand your concerns.
Matt, I'm sorry, before I ask another question, does any other board member have a question or?
I wonder, do we have a sense of how many students this will bring into the district, and what is the deadline for the teachers to make the request? School starts in a week and a half, so how much time do they have to make that request?
My sense, based on the internal survey that they did, I mean, we didn't do it ourselves, is it's for students. And we're asking that decision be made next week by Wednesday. I mean, these are teachers, and so I don't foresee, teachers typically are planners from my experience and like to have this stuff mapped out. So I don't foresee that we're going to be having like deadline issues or anything with this.
So are the teachers going to be able to choose, if it's an elementary kid, what elementary school that kid goes to?
They can request. I have the final call on all that.
Are there any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Passes 5-1. I think that's it for tonight. So can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Kristen. Second.
Second.
Laura. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 6-0. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for meeting tonight. I really appreciate it. Have a good night.
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 Thanks for all the work you're doing.